Hey, welcome. I'm Steve Goodner. Welcome to this LinkedIn Live event, which is streaming on 5 different channels at this point. So that's exciting, at least for me. Uh, Here's what I want to focus on today. We all want more yes in our lives. And I have developed over years a scientific formula to get more yes in our lives. And I'm going to share that with you today. Um, the yes formula is actually built in neuroscience. And so we take that understanding of brain chemistry and how that works and bring it into practical everyday things we can do to build relationships, connections, trust, and really get more yes in our lives. And it's not manipulation. I want to make sure that I stress that. This is not about manipulating people or anything like that. It is about really getting to that place where we can work with people, collaborate with them, um, and move forward together. That's really what yes is. It is an agreement to move forward together. Sorry, I was playing with the sound stuff to make sure everybody could hear me okay. Um, so here's where I want to start. This little thing up here, I have to point with the correct hand, EQ Fit Activate. It is my offering to the world. EQ being emotional intelligence, fit being fitness. Activate means really put it into practice, but it's far more than emotional intelligence. It's what is your personality style? Where are you in your emotional intelligence? Where are you in your habit profile? What productive and counterproductive habits? We take all of that into account in EQ Fit Activate, and it's a 6 to 8 week coaching process that is a launching pad. And what you're going to be able to do today is get a test drive of my coaching. That's kind of what this is all about. And I could not think of a better way to show you that than the yes formula, because it's based in neuroscience, but it has very practical applications, and it allows us to really think more clearly about how we connect, build trust, and gain influence with other people. So I hope you enjoy the test drive today. I want to get right into this and give you some things of value, something you can take away immediately and work with. So I want to share a story about somebody I worked with, and I'm going to use a different name. I'm just going to call him Mark. He's a leader in his organization, and he took over a broken team. This was a team that had struggled for a couple of years, had a previous leader that was all about command and control. There wasn't a lot of collaboration. There was very little emotional intelligence. Um, and so Mark took on a huge challenge, and that is, how do you build the right environment? Well, it's got to start somewhere, and it can start small. That's important. We don't have to have the big win today. As a matter of fact, the likelihood of getting the big win today is probably not going to happen, but we can get little wins every day. But to do that, we have to have a way to approach people and get their buy-in, get their yes, so to speak. So his goal was to create a high functioning team. The first order of business was getting his team members to say yes to his vision, to what he wanted them to do, and what he knew they needed to do. And with all of the dissonance and the disparate ideas, and frankly, the fact that most of them had shut down under the old leadership and weren't very open to collaboration because they were constantly yelled at, they were denigrated because of some of their ideas. Well, you and I both know what happens when that happens is it just shuts people down. It's why we have such low engagement levels, according to Gallup, in the workplace today. So Mark knew he had to practice emotional intelligence at a high level, but he also had to have a pathway to get engagement and to get their yes. And that yes comes one person at a time. So I introduced Mark to the yes formula, which is what we're going to look at today. Mark was able to rebuild those relationships and really lay the foundation for that high functioning team that he wanted. Then, as each team member started to engage, started to say yes and buy in, even in small things, the momentum started to really take over. And Mark was able to move things in the right direction with an understanding that that is a everyday practice. And so I want to share more about this yes formula with you that's backed by neuroscience and frankly by decades of my experience of using it in the workplace, using it in personal relationships. This will work anywhere. What I love about it is it's very people centric. It's not about manipulation. It's not about command and control. It's about helping people see the value in what you're bringing to them. And so let's get into that. What are the challenges? Why is yes harder to get than we think? Well, and I see this so much when I work with entrepreneurs, when I work with salespeople, small business owners, and their teams. People default to logic. So let's just take sales, for instance. That's an easy one. And by the way, if you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, small business owner, you're selling all the time as well. We default to logic, but logic is only about 30% of the decision-making process. And in some research, it says even less than that. Well, then what's the other 70+%? Emotional drivers. People buy on emotion, they rationalize with logic. So getting to yes, if what you're doing is just hitting on the logic and the rational side of things, what's happening is you're missing the boat on the other 70+%, because people make decisions. If I'm a team member, like one of Mark's team members, and I'm making a decision to say yes, I'm making a buying decision. I have to have my buy-in to what Mark is selling me as a leader. Guess what? If you're a leader, you're in sales, because you've got to sell your vision, your ideas, your direction. You can't force people to do the things you want them to do. It just doesn't work. So this is why so many people struggle with getting to yes. They default to this logic and this rational approach, and then they just pile more logic and more facts and more details on top of what they're saying, thinking if I just put enough details and logic out there, they're gonna say yes. All you're doing is burying people under all of that, and you're confusing them. You're really not bringing clarity. More information does not necessarily mean more clarity. That's an important point that I use in my coaching with people when I do these EQ Fit Activate launching pads that last 6 to 8 weeks. Is we have to understand how people make decisions and how our brains work. Our brains process emotionally first before it ever gets to the prefrontal cortex, where we process logically. And so if we understand that, we have a better way of helping people get to that yes that we would all like to see. And there are 4 steps. So when we think about this yes formula, it really is pretty simple. The first step is trust. And that comes out of safety, feeling safe and feeling like you're an authentic person. The second step is reward, or the what's in it for me. The third step is enjoy. Do I enjoy being around you? Do I trust you? Do I see the reward? And do I enjoy being around you? And then action. Okay, something kicks in for us, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. But that's the trigger. That's the yes trigger. If those other three are in place, we can move forward, and you're going to get yes more often. So common mistakes people make: they push harder, they argue louder, they overload with data. So step back. Think about how you, if you're not getting yes, what do you do? Do you speak louder? Do you push harder? Do you throw more facts and data out there? That is counterproductive to getting to yes. And so let's break that down. The first step here are the four. Now, I'm also going to explain the neuroscience behind this, okay, the neurochemistry that's going on. Trust, when somebody trusts you, oxytocin is released. That is the bonding or familial hormone, and that comes out of safety. If somebody feels safe around you, they can trust you, they can trust that you're going to follow through and do the things you say you're going to do, then you're going to be able to build that trust. The second step, as I've said, is reward. That's dopamine. It's the anticipation of the benefit. We as human beings are the only creature that I know of that can experience the reward before it ever happens. That's the dopamine system kicking in our brain. I had a business owner who, when I shared this in my coaching with him, he said, "Oh, I get that. That's when my wife orders on Amazon today and gets it tomorrow." I said, yes, that is the dopamine reward system, but that comes at a cost. So, there's something to think about there. But seriously, that's an important part of what's happening with people. If you want to get to yes more often, can they see the reward of working with you? Enjoyment, that's endorphins. Have you ever had anybody in your life you just enjoy being around? They're fun, they're enjoyable. It's just somebody you like being around. You're comfortable with them. That's endorphins kicking in. You feel good together. And then the fourth step is that action where adrenaline kicks in, and the person that you want to get the yes from is saying, yeah, okay, yeah, this is good. I put my energy into this. I can do this. Now I'm going to break these down even further so we can understand how we can actually practice these steps. I'm not just going to leave you hanging here with the neuroscience and the neurochemistry and all of that. Let's get into how this actually works. So step one is trust, which we've talked about, the neurotransmitter of oxytocin. Why trust matters. If there's no trust, there's no openness. And I'm sure you've experienced this. If you want to get yes, if you're a leader, if you're in sales, even if you're just in personal relationships, if you want somebody to say yes, there has to be a level of trust. Until you reach that threshold level where the trust with that person exceeds the threshold level, it's going to be very difficult to get yes. No matter how loud you speak, no matter how much facts and details that you pour on that person, it really isn't going to make a difference. As a matter of fact, that probably will push them away. So I want you to think of this yes formula not as pushing, but as pulling, right? As drawing people to you. So with no trust, there is no openness, and you can't cross that threshold that helps you to get to yes. The emotional intelligence skills here are empathy and integrity. Primarily, empathy is understanding the other person's feelings, their perspectives, what's going on for them, what's important to them, what's driving them. And if you can truly understand those things, you can really make a difference in building those trust levels. Then we have integrity. You need to be who you say you are. You need to be authentic with them and genuine with them. Without that, it's very difficult to build trust. So many people that I work with, leaders, salespeople, owners of organizations, they say, Steve, I'm trying to figure out, how do I show up for these people? What do I need to be? And I said, you need to be yourself plus. So it starts out with your authentic self plus practice empathy, practice emotional intelligence skills for better relationships, better connection, better understanding of what's driving your people. Practical tip here: be consistent in what you say and what you do, and listen before you pitch to people. Don't just throw your pitch out there and throw facts and details, features and benefits, whatever it happens to be. Listen to what they need. A quick story here. Many years ago, when I was a sales manager working with new salespeople, I knew that if I would listen more than I talked, that the potential customer would lead me to more and bigger sales. But I had to teach that to the salespeople, because the tendency is to download, or what we call the dump truck approach, and just download everything you know and hope that works. Well, there are some sales where technical information is important and all of that, but there's a place for that when they ask for it, not just dump it on them up front. So that's a way to listen. I have literally seen sales that were originally $10,000 sales turn into $100,000 sales by listening and looking for the emotional drivers. That's trust. Let's go to the next one. The next one is the dopamine reward system. The brain craves clarity and benefit. Our brains want clarity so we can wrap our brain around it. That's kind of where that phrase applies. But also, what's in it for me? That is not a selfish thing. I mean, it could be if you take it too far. But bottom line, it's okay to ask, what's in it for me? Because the benefit needs to be a reward. It needs to be something that inspires and encourages me and can reward me. And the emotional intelligence skills here are motivation, which is that intrinsic motivation. We need to develop that in ourselves as an internal resource, but also develop that in other people, help raise their internal motivation by helping understand, what the reward is that they could see out of what you're doing. But then clarity is so very important. I see so many people, whether they're doing marketing or selling, or they're entrepreneurs trying to get more business, whatever it happens to be. And I work with a lot of those folks, and I coach them into the right mindset. But it's got to have clarity of messaging, clarity of understanding for whoever it is they're talking to. Their communication clarity has to be really good to get the message across that they want to. Because otherwise, you know what happens? You create dissonance in the brain. And that's a problem. If somebody can't really wrap their brain around something, which is where logic falls short. But if you focus on the emotional drivers, which we know are 70% or more of decision making, then you have a much better chance of understanding what those are and then leveraging those in a good way to help see what the reward is for people. Here's a practical tip. Frame the yes as a win for them, not for you. This is not about what you want. This is about what they want and what they need. Now, if they say yes, you're probably going to get what you need out of that, right? But that's a practical way to look at this. What's the next thing we can look at here? Step 3, enjoyment. And I can't stress how important this is as well. If people don't enjoy being around you, it's going to be much more difficult to get to yes. When I work with salespeople, when I work with entrepreneurs, I don't consider their sales efforts a success until they get their second and third sale from the same person, because that means that person is enjoying the relationship. They're enjoying being around that individual. I see this a lot with the fundraisers I work with, especially people in planned giving, where it's a long-term cycle of working with individuals through their estate planning to see if there's a planned gift or a legacy gift for that charity. People need to enjoy being around you if you really want to get more yes in your life. So positive emotions accelerate influence. That's what enjoyment is. The emotional intelligence skills are social skills and your presence. Are you fully present with that individual? I'm being fully present with you right now, even though this may be a recording, or if you're live. Thank you for joining me. And I'll check the chat every once in a while to see if there's something in there. Please feel free to put something in the chat or comments later on. And I always try to follow up with those. But be fully present with that individual, because that is an investment of yourself in them, and they see that. People will pick up on that very quickly. I mean, I've had people I've been in meetings with, and they're doing this, and they're going, "Yeah, I'm listening. Go ahead, I'm listening." No, they're not. And let's be honest about it. Is that really respectful? No, that's not respectful. Practical tip here. Add some lightness, some laughter. I use humor a lot in what I do. Now, I'm very careful when I use humor. Let me talk about that just a second. I don't use humor that is negative toward other people or other situations. I don't want to get into politics or race or anything like that. Just get away from that stuff. You can be using humor that is clean. You can be using humor that is acceptable to everybody. And basically, a lot of my humor centers around experiences in life that I've had, and how I struggled through different things, and how I was not always the best student in certain classes I was going through, as far as learning life lessons. And it's okay to share some of that humor with people. So that shared experience is important. What's the next step? The fourth step is when it all starts to really come together. When you move into action, when they move into action and say yes, that's when adrenaline kicks in. Momentum dies without action. If there isn't action, now, what do I mean by that? Well, basically, let me go back to salespeople for just a minute. And bottom line, we're all salespeople in some form, whether you want to admit it or not. When we work with somebody, when we talk to somebody, when we're selling to somebody, if you leave it at that with no next action steps, with no commitment to action, then momentum dies. That's what that means. So what are the emotional intelligence skills at play here? Self-regulation. What is that? It's managing yourself. It's managing your emotions, the emotions of the other person, navigating those things. It's applying consequential thinking, coming up with options. These are sub skills of emotional intelligence I'm talking about. And then confidence. The close of a sale, the getting to yes, if you've done the other three right, should be anticlimactic. It shouldn't be a big deal. It should be a natural, organic progression of moving forward. If little loss of connection there, what fun was that? So if you've done things correctly, getting to yes is going to happen. So let's go ahead and look at specifically the yes formula built on emotional intelligence skills. Self-awareness. Check yourself first. What are you bringing into the conversation? And this is so important because knowing how you're going to show up for somebody else is critical to you getting to yes more often. Why? Because emotions are contagious. The emotional environment you bring into a conversation or an interaction with someone is going to bleed into that conversation and interaction. So if you're upset about something at home, if you're frustrated, if you're just struggling, maybe you're angry, maybe somebody cut you off on your way to this appointment and you've got a little bit of a road rage issue or something like that. I smile because I think my wife says I have some of that, but I don't see it. But my self-awareness is really high, right? There's that humor I'm talking about. And there's nothing wrong with using that, but check yourself. The best salespeople got cut off there. I don't know how this is going to work, but I restarted it, and we'll see what happens. So that was self-awareness. And the next one is self-regulation. Don't let stress kill your trust with people. Self-regulation is regulating your own emotions and the emotions of other people, navigating those. We can't control other people's emotions. We can navigate them. Okay. So that's an important part of this process. The next is motivation. Motivation is bringing authentic energy from inside of us to really make a difference. Then we move on to empathy, understanding other people's needs. Now, that word needs covers a lot of ground. What are their priorities? What are their perspectives? What are their emotional drivers? What's going on for that person? All of those things are critical. And then we move to social skills, where it all kind of starts to come together, where we build connection and we build trust to increase our influence, to increase our clarity so that we can get to yes more often. The outcome of all of this, the key takeaways today are these. You build trust first. Then you highlight the reward for that individual. Then out of that, you create enjoyment with them. You show up and be an enjoyable person to be around. Be comfortable. You are inviting people into your environment, whether you're going to them or they're coming to you, doesn't matter. You're inviting them to be a part of something with you. They need to be able to enjoy that if you want to get to yes more often. And then we guide them into action, into that yes, which is so very important for what we're trying to accomplish. Now, I want to finish this up today with just talking a little bit more about how you can reach out to me. By the way, a conversation doesn't cost anything. If you'd like to have a conversation with me about this yes formula, about EQ Fit Activate, the way that we create the right mindset and the right skill sets to help people bring the very best out of themselves in a 6 to 8 week period of time, then reach out here. There's our website. There's my direct email. Feel free to email me directly. I love having those conversations. Everything we do starts with a curated and validated package of assessments that really helps people look inside and see where they are, their strengths, their gaps, their opportunities, what they can leverage right now, what they can develop and grow in. But we also bring the practical side. What do you want to accomplish, fix, or avoid? What are those things that you want to have happen in your life, whether it's personal or work professional? You're a leader, you're a salesperson, you're an owner of an organization. What I've found and what has been validated from the people I work with, we want a launching pad to help us get the right mindset to get to yes more often so we can move forward. Again, I'll encourage you, reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation about the things that we do. And I would just love to learn your story and where you're about. I'm kind of a collector of stories. I love to hear where you've been, what you've done, and what your challenges are. And if there's a fit, great. If not, then we'll have spent some comfortable time together. I hope you've enjoyed this today. I hope you can take some things out of this that will help you move forward. We all want more yes in our lives, right? So if you'll practice those steps, build trust, show people the reward of working with you, be enjoyable to be around, and then guide people into action. If you'll do those 4 steps, you will get yes more often.